Like, he has been almost unique for Man City, and I think he's been one of the Premier League's most underrated players for the last 5-6 years.
I'm fascinated to see if this will happen, but I think this will be a huge loss to Real Madrid.
But as you say, I think he's used to dealing with these top characters, maybe a little bit better than Nagelsmann. Hello and welcome back to Monday Vibes 1 and all. Yes, just a two-man show today. A lot of people on holiday, but I have a real treat for you guys. It's Henry Hill, fresh off a stag do. How are we feeling, Henry?
I've felt better, let me tell you. But if you like me and Dougie and I should say, then this is your week of Football Daily. So either
Dougie and Henry Daily.
Either it could be some, realism in the viewing figures for me and you, or it could be good. But yeah, we'll be holding the fort this week, as you said, holidays have taken a wrecking ball to our schedule. Yeah,
absolutely. We do have some lovers in the comments. We have a lot of haters as well. There's a guy called Andrew Hughes who regularly abuses both of us. But Andrew, if you're watching today, suck it up. We're in all week. Right, let's kick off with some international reaction. We're going to do this briefly before we get into the transfer business. Henry, Spain are Nations League champions. Not a vintage game.
Not a vintage game, a trophy nonetheless. It's good for them. Beat Italy and Croatia. Croatia side who, let's face it looked like this was their game when it goes to extra time. You're looking at that squad, so experienced. Obviously got through against the Netherlands in extra time. Previous game, really good performance. There's some great goals, actually. This game, they couldn't quite make the chances. But I think Spain deservedly ran out winners. 55% possession. They had a lot more efforts, but only got 2 on target. And if you watch the game, it was quite scrappy, some of the shots. It wasn't like they were sort of really testing Livakovic too much. Although I have to say, Perisic did pull off an unbelievable block on the line. But yeah, got to a penalty shootout, and Unai Simon steps up. I like the fact that Unai Simon is kind of the same way as Pickford has just marked himself out as a really consistent performer for his nation. And so yeah, I don't think Simon is sort of the best keeper in the world by any means of the imagination. I think Spain could probably produce a better one. There's arguments that maybe people like Raya are better, but yeah, Simon he steps up for his nation when it matters, and this is a great next step for the Spanish side that are kind of trying to dust off some difficult few years, let's say, at an international level.
Yeah, definitely. I think the World Cup in particular was pretty disappointing with that exit to Morocco, but this was also about Luka Modric making his 166th international appearance for Croatia. There's speculation this week that he might retire now. What a legend of the game. What a legend of Croatian football as well. Probably their best player in their history. Such a crucial role in that third place finish at the World Cup. Their run to the final in 2018. He's been remarkable. I think only Ronaldo, Ramos, Buffon and Casillas have won more caps for a UEFA nation.
He could just keep going, in all honesty. I mean, he scored penalties in both the semi-final and the final. I worry about this Croatia side because you look at it and it's still the best, other than Gvardiol coming through. They're about to lose some serious big hitters in that side. But yeah, they still deserve, and they're still probably the most undervalued nation on an international level. What Zlatko Dalic has done with this side to get them competing consistently in the biggest trophies going is remarkable. Modric, yeah, exactly. A huge element to that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's only a nation of 4 million people. Remarkable stuff. Anyway, let's get into the main meat and potatoes of the show, and we're kicking off with Saudi Arabia's latest signings because there was a big one yesterday over the weekend. God. Henry, Ruben Neves going to Saudi Arabia. Initial thoughts about this? Kind of crazy.
I swear in no previous summer window have we seen the amount of activity that we've seen in the first few weeks. It's actually bonkers. And yeah, Saudi Arabia, it's 2 words we're going to be saying a lot this summer, I think. Nuts. They've come in for Ruben Neves, Al Hilal, £47 million. I think that's a really good fee for Wolves to be receiving for a guy with 1 year left in his contract. Only 26 years old. Really like Ruben Neves as a player. He's consistently been one of the most high-performing defensive midfielders in the Premier League, hasn't he? Let's face it. It's no secret, I think, that he was holding out for this move to Barcelona. But I just don't think they really wanted him. I don't think they really wanted him enough to pay that amount of money. We'll get on to other targets that Barcelona are going for a bit later. Obviously, it was his dream to go there. That's all well and good. But at the end of the day, I think Barca have sized up this transfer in relation to how much money they actually have available to spend, which isn't tons. And I don't think Ruben Neves is really the dream for that Barcelona midfield. It's telling now that Saudi Arabia have come in, put a big offer on the table, and I think he's gone for it. Obviously, he's gone for it. This is a whether or not Wolves really wanted to sell him, they've maximised as much money out of him as they possibly could have got. Because I think Barcelona were essentially going to try and drive a hard bargain and try and play off the fact that he wanted to leave. He really wanted to leave to look to leverage that situation. But yeah, this is a big signing for Saudi Arabia, because I guess really when you're looking at this Saudi project and thinking, can they genuinely disrupt the apple cart of the European games? It's signings like this where it makes a difference. It's signings where they can pinch someone entering the prime years of their career and you go, you know what, yeah, I will take the Saudi money and run. We looked at Romelu Lukaku, reportedly has just turned down the opportunity to move there. I think that would have been another example. You know, it's someone like Mauro Icardi that we've seen linked that maybe you'd expect to go to Saudi Arabia. Why not? At this point in his career, 30 years old, he could go there and pick up a big pay packet. For Ruben Neves to agree to do that, 26 years old, and we're seeing that with other transfer targets too. These are the signings where the Saudi League could have a bit of distance down the line, because we've seen like the Chinese Super League, who did make some signings like Oscar, etc., but it's not easy to maintain this level of spending and to continue to be an attractive proposition to players coming in. But yeah, this is a very intriguing move by the Saudi Pro League, and yeah, a big name. Yeah,
for sure. It doesn't feel like this Saudi project is going to go anywhere either, because obviously it's state funded, all these clubs. It's the backing from the Saudi PIF, and their interest in football isn't going to go anywhere either, which it felt like the Chinese Super League kind of was built off Xi Jinping's massive interest in football, and these privately owned clubs maintaining their sort of success and wealth, and they weren't able to do that with the outbreak of COVID and Chinese football not going the same way, whereas Saudi Arabia, with the 2030 World Cup coming up, their interest in football isn't going to go anywhere. So I think he's gone quite early. Yeah. I think this is a bit of a shame, to be honest. I think although that move to Barcelona might not have materialised, he's clearly a Champions League level player. He's played in that competition before for Porto. Has been linked with a number of clubs over the last 2 years. So to go to Saudi Arabia at 26, and lots of Wolves fans on Twitter were saying, he can go for 2-3 years, earn unfathomable, unimaginable wealth, and I get that. It's very difficult to turn that down. It will secure him and his family's future for generations, but at the same time he could have probably gone a bit later down the line. And Wolves fans saying, he can go for 2-3 years, come back to Europe. You have no idea whether the clubs will be interested in buying him in 2-3 years' time when he's played at that standard for 2-3 years. And with other clubs, making improvements, players are generally moving to clubs a bit younger than they were a few years ago as well. They're getting a bit more smarter in how they run. So I think he's gone a bit early. But for Wolves, Henry, yes, they have got a good fee, but this is a big issue because he has pretty much been their best player for a number of years now, and even last year was sort of leading all their key metrics.
Yeah, I agree with you. And also losing João Moutinho as well, someone who can't stop playing football, can he?
Yeah.
He's just always there. Yeah, they've got a massive hole in their midfield now. They've managed to keep Lopetegui, which I think is huge, because I think he did a really good job there at the back end of last season. But I know he had reservations about who they could go out and sign in the market. They've now got a bit of money to go and spend, but it's not going to be easy to replace Ruben Neves. And as we saw with sort of Gonçalo Guedes, not every player going to Wolves really wants to be there all the time. I think this kind of Portuguese gamble is beginning to wane a little bit, which the path they've gone down, certainly getting those Jorge Mendes clients in who may be looking at Wolves as a bit of a stepping stone. At least Ruben Neves was absolutely loved when he was in the Championship, came all the way through. He's been, like you say, he's been an absolutely fantastic servant for the club. Wolves have a massive job on their hands to bring in the right bodies, because they didn't score many goals last season. No. Essentially, defence is what got them through in the end, wasn't it? I know Kalidou is going to be coming back, but in order to make sure they're not in the same situation next season, they have to make some really, really big signings, and I just worry about who they can really attract at this moment in time.
Yeah, for sure. And their big signing from last summer, Matheus Nunes, didn't really work in the way many people expected. I saw some Wolves fans saying, that was mainly down to sometimes playing out wide. He never played in his central position because of Neves and Moutinho, so maybe that gives him an opportunity to establish himself.
They were also saying that he turned it on at the end of the season when it looked like he could get a move to somewhere else.
Yeah, when he was being linked with Liverpool. But yeah, they've also lost Diego Costa, not a big loss. And Adama Traore's left as well. And there's actually been no speculation about where Adama Traore is going to go next as well, which is a little bit interesting. And Max Kilman, I think, has been linked with Spurs as well, supposedly on Ange Postecoglou's list of potential centre-back targets. He would be. So, yeah, that's our kind of opinion on Ruben Neves. Personally, I feel it's a little bit early, but at the same time, when you are offered that sort of money, it's very difficult for me to sit here and say, I would act differently, etc. I just think it's a little bit of a shame, because I'm sure he could have got another move. But at the same time, some Wolves fans were saying to me, look, he's done Wolves a massive favour by agreeing to this deal. It's probably the best money that Wolves are going to get this summer. And he's gone early, so to not cause so much disruption. At the same time, I think Ruben Neves is entitled to be a little bit more selfish about it. Wait a few more months or weeks at least, and try and organise a move to a top European side, because I think it would have potentially happened. Henry, let's talk about some Chelsea signings potentially going to Saudi Arabia as well, because we talk about Wolves being saved by Saudi Arabia offering a lot of money for Ruben Neves. Chelsea, all their off-cuts are going to Saudi.
It's like it's a miracle. It is a miracle that is happening to the Chelsea right now, because there's no secret they need to raise money. By the way, we've got an Explained coming out on the Saudi Pro League and their investments coming out next weekend. So if you are interested in really like where this project's going, please do check that out.
Tuned.
I started writing on Friday, and by today, so many things have changed.
It's out of date, man.
Yeah, it's out of date.
Get back to work.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, no, Saudi Arabia looks to be saving Chelsea's bacon right now, because they are taking on a number of players. Big talk about potentially Koulibaly going there on a 3-year contract, fresh after it said he was maybe going to go to Inter Milan, which I guess falls into the category of the debate that you were just having about Ruben Neves. Is it really time? Maybe he could go there. Ziyech as well. I'm not surprised to hear that he's potentially looking to move on. And the thing is, it just looks like Chelsea are about to receive decent fees for players that they would not get decent fees for elsewhere, and get some massive wages off the books. I think we're looking at about £500,000 a week in wages cleared. And Todd Boehly, I mean, you've probably got a bit more information on this. It looks like Todd Boehly has played a bit of a blind in some people's eyes, maybe something a bit risky in other people's eyes.
So basically what the reports are saying is that the Saudi PIF have a 5% investment in Clear Lake Capital, which is the consortium led by Todd Boehly that bought Chelsea. So they have some investment in that. So Todd Boehly supposedly went to Saudi Arabia last month, and now Saudi Arabian clubs are buying Chelsea's unwanted stars. Now, I don't think there's anything particularly illegal about that. It's probably a bit of a grey area. But, in terms of they're a minor investor in Chelsea, now they're buying these players for these clubs, because it is the Saudi PIF that is funding all these clubs' investment. It's not just one, all of them, which I think is such an interesting strategy, to be honest. They don't seem to care about who's successful. It's just about growing the league as a whole right now. But Todd Boehly's been massively saved by this, because for months we've been talking about, look, it's all right signing 16 players in 1 year, spending £600 million, but you do need to make some money back eventually, because financial fair play will surely come into play. I mean, financial fair play has been a bit of a joke in the last few years, but you can't carry on at this current rate of investment. So they did need to get some return on that investment, and Saudi Arabia are bailing them out massively. And as I say, it's a grey area because they are a minor investor in Chelsea. But I'm sure people will look into this deal, much more intelligent people than me and you in terms of football finance.
Than me?
They might be more intelligent than you. It would be a rare thing.
That's a long shot.
But we will see how this sort of plays out. But it doesn't seem like they're doing anything, as I say, illegal. It's just a bit of a grey area.
I guess we've seen with multi-club ownership before. It's not like this doesn't happen. I mean, look at the way sort of Watford and Udinese relentlessly swap players. So it's not. You're right. It's eyebrow raising, just because I don't think Chelsea would have got fees for these players any other way. But at the same time, like you said, it happens before. I just wonder, like, if Saudi are going to fall into the kind of UEFA FFP guidelines along with everyone else.
Well, exactly. That's a good question as well. And also those rules that sort of stipulate around owning two clubs, I think they have to be in the same federation as well, which is why Nice and Man United, if they're bought by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I think he'd have to sell Nice. But I don't know whether it works if they're in the Asian federation, as it were. But it's a bit of a shame. I mean, let's review slightly some of these potential outgoings, Henry. Aubameyang hasn't worked out whatsoever.
Yeah, it's really, really strange, actually. I think he's not been given enough opportunities this season.
Obviously, last year he was just benched. Hardly even used. Obviously, we don't necessarily know what was going on behind the scenes. So obviously, he was hamstrung by the fact that he was a Tuchel signing for a whole 3 days or something like that. Yeah. And then he's had 2 new managers since, but I still think that there was a space for him to at least try and perform last season. I think it's quite clear that maybe his time at the very top of European football is over. Koulibaly is an interesting one. I think he's been slightly unlucky with some of the criticism that he's got so far. I mean, listen, as two people that watch European football, we were very excited about this move when Chelsea. I thought it was an excellent signing, and at the start he did look to be quite decent, but I think he's just sort of taken a confidence hit. Still 30, I think still could be a great defender in Italy. If they get something like 25 to 30 million pounds for him, it's unbelievable. And it's also, what's interesting is this could really affect how the Levi Colville situation plays out, because a lot of talk that
Brighton are really, really pushing for him and basically demanding him as part of the Moises Caicedo. If you're going to come in for another one of our players, well, we want one of yours. Finally, I think I quite like the fighting fire.
Fighting back.
Yeah, absolutely, and so they should. But yeah, it looks like Chelsea are pretty adamant they don't, because that's not really the kind of player they want to be selling, is it?
No.
They're already losing Mount. I think they want to keep someone like Colville on the books, homegrown talent, etc. But yeah, fair enough to Brighton pushing for him. But if they can move Koulibaly on, at least again, I guess you could say, look, there is going to be a space in a defence for you this season, Colville. You'll get minutes, so that's really interesting to look at. Ziyech too, it's just never really worked out.
It's disappointing, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I think he was signed in 2020 at the same time as Havertz and Werner then came in that same summer. But I remember when it was announced, I think it was around February time, under Lampard, then he came in and there was just these two new other superstar signings. They never really found a place for him. I think the positions that he probably thrived in most at Ajax were being played in very well by Mason Mount at that time. And he did have the occasional good game for Chelsea, but his consistency wasn't there. His injury record was a little bit patchy. And I think it's just been a really, really disappointing signing.
I think he was obviously wonderful in the Eredivisie and played well in that Ajax side in the Champions League that were flying. That just as a unit were flying. I personally think he's just slightly limited in terms of what he can. What
do you mean, like his physical capabilities?
Yeah.
He's a bit lightweight, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's obviously an excellent player. I'm never going to say he's not, but I think in terms of the options that he can provide to this Chelsea attack, slightly stunted at moments. And I even think someone like Pulisic has a bit more to his game, which would be interesting, but it looks like Pulisic is probably going to leave too.
Yeah, for sure. And then Edouard Mendy had that amazing run as they won the Champions League in 2021. Incredible run. I think he was named UEFA Goalkeeper of the Year, but I think that felt like, for most people, I think we at Football Daily kind of made clear that we didn't think he was necessarily an elite goalkeeper. His performances were elite at that time, but hasn't managed to maintain that level. And when he was introduced at the back end of last year, occasionally for Kepa, looked incredibly shaky. If he goes to Saudi Arabia, fair play to him. He's gone from Rennes to winning a Champions League at Chelsea, probably achieved all he could at a top European club, and got an amazing, career-ending move to Saudi Arabia and sorted out his family for life.
Yeah, Edouard Mendy is one football, however way you look at it. If you look at sort of the fact that he was hardly even a professional footballer until late on in his career, to be an AFCON winner, Champions League winner, made history of Chelsea, you can never take anything away from what Edouard Mendy has done. Remarkable story, remarkable keeper, but you're right though, it's probably time to move him on.
Fair enough. There we have it. So Chelsea probably now need to definitely sign a goalkeeper this summer, which would be quite interesting. And there has been speculation that Andre Onana is now top of Man United's wish list in terms of goalkeepers. He's also been linked with Chelsea in the past, but we'll see what happens there.
Do you think they need to move on from Kepa, just affirmatively? Do you think that Kepa's done?
I don't think it's a top priority this summer. I think they probably need to sort out their defensive midfielder and striker, at least work out what they're doing, who they're playing centrally next year. But yes, if they could upgrade Kepa this summer, I think most Chelsea fans would definitely take that. But is Kepa going to be happy with the bench option? Probably not, for another wasted year of his career. Well, having said that, he does seem like a very good guy to have around the squad. I think he's very popular in that squad. He's a good bridge between the English and the Spanish contingent there. So we'll see what happens there. But yes, if they could get in someone like Andre Onana, that's a great move. Right, let's move on to Man City, the title of this video, because there's been a huge exodus to Saudi Arabia, but it feels like Man City are considering letting go of some of their key players. Key players in that treble success last season. I mean, Henry, let's talk Kyle Walker first of all, because this kind of surprised me when it was first announced around Thursday, Friday time. But yes, it feels like Kyle Walker could be on the move to Bayern Munich.
I mean, first of all, what a cool move for Kyle Walker. 33 years old. Sad it doesn't look like Pep is using him in the biggest games anymore. We saw him benched in the Champions League final.
Played a lot down the stretch though.
He did. There was a point where Pep was saying that Walker didn't fit into that system, which I thought was so unfair. How can you really say that about a 33-year-old who's achieved everything he's done? That I think to say he's sort of tactically inflexible at this point in his career seems a bit short-sighted. But yeah, I mean, I still think if you've got an aggressive winger, there's no defender in the world you want other than Kyle Walker to go up against him. I think we saw the respect that he garnered from Vinicius, and I think even when England played France in the quarterfinals of the World Cup, all the French media was focused on Walker because they were like, this is the guy that's could stop Mbappe basically. So yeah, he's really held up in high regard across the footballing sphere, and I think there's no surprise to see someone like Bayern Munich come in for him. Even though he's 33, he just turned 33, by the way. I think it's slightly deceptive.
Yep.
The way he's playing, he's still got sort of two good years in
Probably.
him, I reckon. So yeah, why not go there? Looks like Benjamin Pavard wants to move into centre half. If they have Kim Min-jae as well, they're gonna be super stacked at the centre of defence. Bayern Munich, or even if Pavard leaves, there does look like there's going to be a space on the right hand side of that defence for Kyle Walker, and I think it will suit him perfectly to be on the front foot in a team which dominates the ball again. Yeah, I'm super excited for this move for him. Does that give Rico Lewis an opportunity to play a few more minutes?
Yeah, potentially.
I hope so. I really hope so. I think he's a very, very exciting young talent. But yeah, what I'm worried about this exodus is that the players that we're talking about, Mahrez, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Walker, City don't have that many older players in their squad. They've got Scott Carson, who's this almost charismatic cheerleader on the sideline. They've got Kevin De Bruyne. They've got Ortega, who's in his 30s. I think Edison's about to turn 30. But other than that, they really don't have that many senior players. So to take sort of an axe to your senior players in such a way, I think there's got to be an element of caution, because although it's not like they've got a really, really young squad, they've got a lot of guys sort of in the 25, 26 range. We're talking about people that have been sort of the flag bearers for City for such a long time and understand the club and understand what it means and have followed the progression through. So yeah, I would be slightly worried about sort of getting rid of a lot of these guys that really know what it means to play for City, because although I do really respect how City are ruthless in terms of their recruitment and the fact that they are willing to move players on, let players go, yeah, it should be taken with a bit of caution.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it does feel like there's been a lot of change there in the last few years, but I suppose so many of these players have just completed every dream they could ever have at City and will just be looking for a new challenge. I mean, Bernardo Silva, for example, has been linked with a move away for I think it's 2-3 years in a row now, particularly to Barcelona, but now it looks like PSG is the most likely. Mahrez, it's a known fact that was incredibly disappointed with his game time towards the back end of last season, particularly in the Champions League, having been so good for City in the last few years in the Champions League, kind of their best player, I think in most knockout games.
The final 5 games he played 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Which you know, that's if that's a signal that you're not wanted, I don't know what else is.
Well, exactly. And it felt like Pep, you know, so known for rotating in the Premier League, but he actually did very little rotating in the back half of the Champions League. I mean, dropping Walker for the final was probably a more controversial move, but it was Bernardo Silva on the right-hand side who had that amazing performance against Real Madrid at the Etihad. And I actually think, in a strange way, Bernardo Silva's the biggest loss, because the others are into their 30s. Gundogan had an exceptional season, but I do feel like that profile is potentially gettable around Europe, maybe not instantly, but someone that could step into that role in the next 2-3 years. Whereas Bernardo Silva, the fact he can play so well as a right winger in midfield, as a more defensive midfielder, even covering in at left back, like he has been almost unique for Man City, and I think he's been one of the Premier League's most underrated players for the last 5-6 years. I think he genuinely has been exceptional, particularly in some years. I think it was 18-19, he was just absolutely out of this world.
Nice. I think people now really respect just how multi-talented this guy is. He can do it all. You can trust him to pretty much fill in everywhere. We saw that great clip of Jack Grealish begging him to stay. City, although they are good at sort of selling players and letting players move on, we're talking about a 28-year-old with 2 years left in his contract. If PSG are serious, they should be asking for a massive fee, because I think this is a transformative signing. This is exactly the kind of signing PSG need to make if they're looking for a sort of a selfless superstar to come in and really give everything for the shirt, which is what they've been struggling to do in recent years. A signing like Silva would be huge for PSG, and I hope that City sort of push them all the way in terms of what value you think they can get for him, because it's not like PSG have been splashing tons of cash on other players this summer. They've been sort of going after the free market. So yeah, if City should take everything they can from PSG if Bernardo Silva is to go there. He did say on the international break this weekend he's making noises that he is probably going to leave. But yeah, I agree with you. Mahrez, so be it. Gundogan is a tough one too. I mean, what would you make of him going to Barcelona? Do you think that's the right move for that Barcelona midfield?
No, not for Barcelona, to be honest. I think they need a more defensively minded midfielder, and it doesn't feel like... I mean, we talked about Ruben Neves earlier, we talked about Martin Zubimendi. I think he's made clear that he wants to stay at Real Sociedad for at least another season, which is fair play to him, you know, staying loyal to his boyhood club. But is Gundogan going to go there and be used in that defensive midfielder role, or the more pivot role? I don't think that's his best game. Like we saw down the stretch this year, I think it was 6 goals and 2 assists in his final 6 games of the season, including the brace in the the FA Cup final, got another brace against Everton, that phenomenal goal. I think he got another brace against Leeds. And he was just performing so well in that free 8 role, which is where Frankie de Jong, where Kessie, where Pedri, where Gavi play. They've got so many options in there. And it's I don't think they necessarily need another Gundogan. I'd use that money on an out-and-out defensive midfielder. Having said that, Gundogan, if he wants to go to Barcelona on a free transfer and you can afford to do so, good player to have around the squad. Been through everything, and I think he'd add so much experience and quality when he was on the pitch. I just don't think he'd be able to be used as many games as he has done for Man City over the last few years. What I find quite interesting about this exodus is that it does feel like after a certain amount of time with Pep, as good as he is, as brilliant as he is, players get worn out. He is so demanding, both physically, both mentally, the way he thinks about the game. I mean, you see him post-match most games, like going up to his players and just getting right in their face and being like, probably complaining about something they did in the 92nd minute. And that is brilliant. That's why they got so much better. It's why they've won so much. But at the same time, I think it really saps people's energies. And we've seen, except for Aguero and company, and I'm sure I'm missing someone very obvious, a lot of players have left kind of before their true end, their career. I mean, Sane left, Zinchenko left, Jesus, Sterling, they all wanted a new challenge. And yes, that was to do with game time, but I think also it's partly to do with they need to be in a different environment.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. He's an intense dude.
Yeah.
Pep Guardiola.
He certainly is.
So yeah, no, I do get that. But yeah, we're talking about a lot of players that have achieved everything they can at City, and there's always Cities are going to be always hamstrung by the fact they don't have the allure of the Camp Nou or the Bernabeu, etc. I do think there are, for everything they've achieved on the pitch, I don't think it's like the dream destination for a lot of these players. And I think if you've got the opportunity to go somewhere, let's face it, go to Spain, a bit warmer, nice to see out the rest of your days there, then yeah, absolutely, I can see why players would be tempted to do that. But I agree with you. I think for almost your own preservation, you've got to maybe look elsewhere at certain moments. But yeah, I agree. Barcelona as well for Gundogan. I mean, if we're talking about a club that are trying to rapidly reduce their wage bill, going and snapping up somebody who's probably going to be on well over £200,000 a week makes zero sense whatsoever.
Yeah, and also, I suppose, committing to this City project, they now know that Pep's probably only got 2 years left as well.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
true.
They're just looking for a new change. Let's move on to some managers, because it's also happening in the managerial world. So obviously Bernardo Silva linked with PSG. It looks like Luis Enrique, if he does go to PSG, Henry, is going to be their new manager. You a fan?
Yeah, love it. I'm actually amazed that he's been unemployed for as long as he has, in all honesty. I think the idea that he was a bad manager after the World Cup because they passed the ball a lot and didn't score is absurd. Like they Spain still looked very impressive. They won one of the games
7-0.
7-0. I mean, albeit not a great Costa Rica side, but people have such short memories. This is someone that took a Barcelona team left by Pep and in many ways improved it, made them more sort of got them better at like the dark arts and stuff like that. Still won a treble. It was
a bit more direct.
It was what he did with that Barcelona team was amazing. I don't think he's a bad manager. I actually think he's perfect. We've always said it. He's someone that's good at working with what he's got at his disposal. He's not necessarily going to go in and demand this, that, and that. I think that's something that's good about international football. Is you've literally got to work with the players that are presented to you, and I think he did a really good job of that Spanish side in a transitional period for the team. I think this is the perfect time to get him on at PSG. It looks like they're going to have to restructure that attack. New players coming in. We talked about some of the transfer targets on Continental Club. So Marcus Thuram, Wilfried Zaha, etc. So yeah, why not get one of the sort of best attacking managers in Europe to come in and rejig your forward line? I think this is a really great opportunity. I know they wanted Julian Nagelsmann. I know there was talk there. I'd be intrigued to hear why that's ultimately broken down. But they've turned to another consummate professional in Luis Enrique. He obviously is keen for the job. I think he's been waiting for sort of a top Spanish job for a while now, hasn't it? Hasn't quite materialised. There was talk that he was going to go to Napoli. That's not happened. Instead, they've got Rudy Garcia.
Yes,
I mean,
not that exciting.
Oh, that's a real shame. That is a shame. He's come from the Saudi leagues, so I
hope to Ruben Neves that he can come back at the sharp end.
What's going on in Serie A with some of these decisions? But Enrique, I'm really excited. Like we said with Barcelona, 2 La Ligas, 3 Copa del Reys, 1 Champions League, 1 Club World Cup. You can't argue with that. I think he's perfect for PSG, and he's a positive guy too. I think people get on with him.
Yeah. I mean, Messi called him the second best, or one of the two best managers that he'd ever worked with, along with Pep. And he didn't always necessarily get along with Messi that well. So for him to say that is real high praise indeed. He had a disappointing spell at Roma, but other than that, it's pretty much been success everywhere he's been. And the Spain success also has to be taken into the context of having to stop for a while after the death of his daughter, which was so unfortunate.
Absolutely.
So for him to turn Spain into one of the most possession-dominant nations, that's maybe not such a big achievement when it's so highly into their DNA, but you blooded a lot of youngsters into that side as well. And I think they're better set to return to their best over the next 10 years. And also, he never really had a star striker in that period either, or that many elite centre-backs at their prime as well. So I think...
Sorry, Dougie. They lost to a Morocco side that were just riding a wave of momentum, and they lost on penalty shootout.
Yeah.
Come on,
exactly. And also did well at Celta Vigo before Barcelona. I think in his 1 year there, led them to 9th, which was their best finish in about 9 years. I think he brought in Nolito. He had to deal with Iago Aspas leaving. He brought in Rafinha on loan from Barcelona. So he has done well in club management beforehand. Obviously, it's a big step up at PSG. But as you say, I think he's used to dealing with these top characters, maybe a little bit better than Nagelsmann. At least in terms of Nagelsmann's past at Bayern Munich. But let's talk about Ancelotti. Because, Henry, this has been rumbling on for about 3-4 months by the looks of things. But some Brazilian newspapers and some Spanish publications are claiming that Brazil are set to announce Ancelotti as their new manager.
Wow. It's... Considering they've just gone in, Real Madrid, and spent another 100 million on a young player who's probably assuming he's going there to play under Ancelotti. I mean... For Real Madrid, this is tricky because the replacements out there, like Nagelsmann is still a gamble, isn't he? It's not a shoo-in that he's going to go to Real Madrid and be a huge success, even though it looks pretty much like it was a really dumb decision to fire him by Bayern Munich. This would be fascinating. This has been rumbling on for ages. Brazil have been adamant that they want Ancelotti as their next manager. Why shouldn't they? He's one of the greats, and I think
he's very well set for international management.
Absolutely,
as well.
I think he would do best there. Brazil's best player, Vini Jr., managed by Carlo Ancelotti.
Rodrigo, Eder Militao.
Yeah, I think
they all love him as well.
Yeah, you can see why. And I actually think Don Carlo, he should be in Rio de Janeiro, just soaking in the sunshine. I love this move. It's an interesting time for it to happen. I guess if he's genuinely serious, it needs to happen now rather than later, because they need to get in a coach who can start to embed his ideas. But this would be a huge blow to Real Madrid, because as we've seen, it's not easy to manage these big players, this environment where there's so much expectation on the shoulder of a club like Real Madrid. And that's why they went back to Ancelotti, because I think the Presidente, he knew that Ancelotti had the capacity and the nerve to hold his own in that kind of cauldron in the Bernabeu. So this would be a massive loss to Real Madrid. But I genuinely think it immediately makes Brazil kind of favourites to go out and be potentially World Cup winners once more, because that's ultimately what they're craving, isn't it? By the way, I love what Brazil did at the weekend with the all black kits.
That's really nice.
Against Guinea. What a friendly. But I thought I thought that was a really epic touch for that to happen in Spain. Really good on them, and good to see some more momentum building. I think what we saw Infantino with Vini Jr. as well. But to get back onto the point, I'm fascinated to see if this will happen, but I think this would be a huge loss to Real Madrid if he does go, because I'm not sure that Nagelsmann right now is the right person to replace him.
Yeah, I mean, he did have such serious fallings out with Lewandowski, with Neuer, with Thomas Müller. I mean, the latter two last season. And there is some question marks about how he deals with young stars as well. We actually have some breaking news from behind the camera. Fabrizio Romano has tweeted that actually Kyle Walker is in contract talks with Man City about extending his deal. So maybe he won't end up at Bayern Munich, but you suppose if you got the two options on the table, Henry, I'm putting you on the spot now, sign with Bayern Munich continuing the breaking news, sources believe this is still a possibility despite interest from Bayern Munich, so it's not a done deal. Henry, I'm going to give you the situation. You are 33-year-old Kyle Walker now. We're obsessed with the fact he's 33, aren't we? Yeah. You are Kyle Walker right now. You get Man City, a 2-year deal with Man City, maybe say improved wages slightly, we'll make that up, or Bayern Munich right now.
Well, I heard that Sheffield United are also interested too. Apparently
there's a third option on the table.
There's a third option, and it's the
Paul
Blades.
Heckingbottom's Blades.
Well, it would be a homecoming. It'd be a nice story, wouldn't it? I'm going to Bayern Munich. I still think
it's time.
Roll the dice. Roll the dice. He's going to win trophies. Nothing else to prove. Go to Bayern Munich for me.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I should have said this earlier, actually. I do slightly worry about City's fullbacks because João Cancelo doesn't look like he's got a future at City. Kyle Walker potentially leaving, and Rico Lewis is their only other right back. And then at left back, they've been short there for a while as well. So, yeah, City actually have a lot of work to do, and with this exodus as well. So it will be interesting. But let's get back to if Ancelotti leaves Real Madrid, Nagelsmann comes in. Do you think that's in any way a risk? Would it be more sensible for Real Madrid to go down the route of, say, someone like Xabi Alonso or someone like Raul, who know the club from the inside?
I think Xabi Alonso's made it clear that he's going to stay at Bayer Leverkusen for 1 year. He's quite a noble guy, isn't he? And I think he probably respects the fact that Bayer Leverkusen have taken a chance on him, and he's not gonna. And I think there's a lot of value in that.
They've also signed some new players as well. Alex Grimaldo, Xhaka looks like he's going to go there.
How many times have we seen a manager make a big move too soon? I think back, like Andre Villas-Boas had one good year. What was it at Porto, and then took on that Chelsea job probably way too soon. I think Xabi Alonso is probably respectful of the fact that he's still got more to prove than just turning around a Bayer Leverkusen side that were in a pretty bad way when he found them. So yeah, I actually think promoting someone like Raul for 1 year would be a more sensible decision. He's done well within the Castilla. He's the squad there. We did a short on that not too long ago. I think as a stopgap, why not? I think Raul would command the same respect. Let's not forget, no one thought Zinedine Zidane would be the big success he was. His Castilla side were not particularly exciting, but it's just his ability to command respect and sort of juggle personalities and whatnot. And tactically, he wasn't the most incredible manager in the world, but I don't necessarily, as almost Carlo Ancelotti shows sometimes, you don't always necessarily have to be that. It's just about getting these big-minded players to sort of buy into the same vision. And I think Raul would potentially have the ability to do that.
Over Nagelsmann?
Well, no, obviously. It's hard for me to say that what Nagelsmann has done is huge, and he's got a way better managerial career. I don't know if Madrid's the right club for him. I think he's better at a profile of club which is slightly below, like an underdog. I think if the Atletico Madrid job ever was available, I think Nagelsmann would be perfect. But big philosophical change, I suppose. Well, that's what they're going to need at some point in time. That's my personal opinion. I obviously don't have any issue with the Nagelsmann potentially going to Real Madrid. I think their priority should be to keep Ancelotti around. But if he goes, why not getting someone like Raul for one season and just see how that goes?
Fair enough. I think the exciting thing about Nagelsmann at Real Madrid is that he's always got amazing attacking returns out of his stars, from Kramaric and Bebu at Hoffenheim to Werner at Leipzig, even Lewandowski in the season that he was really falling out with Nagelsmann at Bayern. I think it was his second best scoring season last year. Choupo-Moting had a really good year under him. So the prospect of him working with a talent like Vinicius Junior and potentially Joselu, who's going on loan to Real Madrid. And also there was a report yesterday, apparently it's been mistranslated, so I'm not entirely sure. You might have more information by the time this video goes live, but Real Madrid are actually done with signing players for this summer. Yeah. Which seems remarkable because they only have one striker on their books.
Yes, I think that's just...
that's a mistranslation, surely.
Yeah, or it's the president. I think it's just him, Flo Perez playing some games. He knows what he's doing in the market, probably better than anyone. Yeah, a note on that Joselu move. Here's an example that you may be derided at some point in your career, but you will turn it around. You can turn it around.
Hear that, Andrew Hughes?
Yeah.
You've not broken Henry.
Yeah. Joselu at Newcastle was a bit of a joke, wasn't he?
As well, yeah.
Yeah, and respect to him. He went to Alaves, smashed it. Went to Espanyol last season, got relegated, smashed it again, scored for Spain in the Nations League, and then converted his penalty. He's having a real kind of swan song late on. And I think he's going to get minutes. He's going to get minutes in this Real Madrid side. I think, considering the talent around him, it's not bad. It's a good decision for a cheap move just to get a striker in that knows La Liga like the back of his hand. He's going to just score goal. I'm actually kind of buzzing for Joselu because it's not often you see a player kind of, a bit like Choupo-Moting had it, I suppose, really sort of rise out of the previous speculation around him and become a star. So yeah, really pleased for him. And this is fine for Real Madrid. But yeah, I agree with you. They need another striker. on the books. They absolutely need another forward.
Yeah, for sure. Especially returning the goals record of Benzema over the last few years, and Mariano Diaz has also left the club as well. Let's talk about another imminent move, though. Vitor Roque to Barcelona. Henry, I know you were writing about him quite recently.
Yeah, not too long ago we listed him. It was one of the 5 best transfers of the year, or maybe 10 best transfers of the year, we said, when he went to Atletico Paranaense in Brazil. Sorry if I've slightly butchered that. It's I'm very tired. But but yeah, 18 years old. He was their record signing at when they bought him in. But he's got 16 goals and 57 appearances for his club. So it's been a big success. He was huge for Brazil in the, I think it was under 20 South American Championship.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a real star there, and he's already been given a cap for the Brazilian national team. Came on against Morocco. So yeah, I think it was inevitable that he was going to get a big move this summer. I think he's called like El Tigre or something like the Tiger. So he's got a cool nickname, which we don't really seem to get in Europe.
No,
you get Slabhead and stuff like that. In South America, they get the prestige.
Yeah, we normally focus on sort of physical sort of deformities or something a bit strange. Yeah, Slabhead, but yeah, it doesn't quite have the El Tigre. No,
absolutely. But yeah, why not? 45 million euros. I think this is actually a smart transfer by Barcelona, which isn't something we get to say all the time. So yeah, if it goes through, it sounds like he really wants to move. Again, I think there's probably a space for him at the centre forward in that Barcelona squad. So he's obviously he may not hit the ground running. He's only 18 years old, but I think we've seen this kind of continued race for South American talent. We've seen how successful that's been for Real Madrid.
It feels very Real Madrid, this.
There we go. So, but they've got Endrick coming in 12 months' time. So they've already captured sort of the other big star. So yeah, Vitor Roque, certainly one to look out for. I'm really this time next year it'll be interesting for us to reflect, see just how good he really is.
Yeah, because I think they were linked with Aubameyang coming in as Lewandowski's sort of backup. This is way more exciting. It's way more progressive. And yes, it's a lot of money on an 18-year-old, but we've seen with Rodrigo, we've seen with Vinicius Jr., getting these young South American talents that are at the top of their game in a very competitive South American sort of Copa Libertadores or the Brazilian Serie A as well. Like, these are very highly fought, highly anticipated games with massive crowds, big pressure, and he's performed really well for them so far. And yes, Barcelona's a big step up, but we've seen with Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr., with the right care and cultivation around their careers, they can become absolute superstars, and maybe this is the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. I was watching, so it's slightly different. I was watching a video the other day of when Neymar at Santos played against Ronaldinho, and Ronaldinho scored a hat-trick. It was 3-3 at half-time. Ronaldinho scored a hat-trick to win it 5-4, and Neymar scored the Puskas goal in the same game. And I was thinking, that is a mental game.
Yeah,
that is like
imagine being there.
Well, that's one of the best ever. And
that's like handing of the baton, isn't it?
But that's kind of, again, shows what you were just saying about it's high-pressure football in Brazil. Mm-hmm. They're highly passionate people, so if you are succeeding there's no surprise that they're coming over to Europe and becoming stars. So yeah, Vitor Roque earned his move. He's really stepped up and shown what he's about. So I'm excited for this one.
Nice. And Flo Balogun also had a very good international break with the US, and he was saying afterwards when he was speaking to the media that he won't go on loan again. And you can kind of understand that. He's at a stage in his career where he wants to be playing regular football, and his performances on loan at Reims last year suggest that he is ready to be a star somewhere. I mean, what was it? 22 goals in 39 games for a Reims side that no one thought that much of. That obviously changed managers quite early on, brought in Will Still, Twitter's favourite manager, and last year 0.77 expected goals per 90, showed a range of finishing. He's got really good pace, he's got excellent understanding of where the ball is going to drop in the box, and I'm really excited for his future, linked with the likes of Inter and AC Milan, obviously two sides that made the Champions League semi-finals, in Inter's case the final last year. This is a massive opportunity for him. And Arsenal, with the amount of players that are coming in, with the likes of Havertz being linked with Arsenal, Balogun probably would drop down even further down the list. So you think it's time for a permanent move for Balogun?
Yeah, I think we just saw Reece Nelson extend his contract there, and I just wonder why. I don't know if he's going to get the minutes. Nketiah is obviously ahead of him too. He's another one that's made the decision to stay at Arsenal. I think Balogun's being smart here. I think he's put Charlie Patino, the youth player they've lost as well. I respect the fact that he's potentially looking to go away and play some permanent football elsewhere. Like, Arsenal could always come back in for him one day, and I think his thinking is, I'll return to Arsenal as a starter rather than just be on the books, rather than just be waiting for moments and playing the odd game in the Carabao Cup and whatnot. Like you said, Balogun proved how useful a forward he is, and he's been around for a while. I think his name's been floated. He's been an exciting prospect. He didn't have a great time at Middlesbrough, but has gone into a top European side and proved himself away. So yeah, if he can get a move to a big club that needs a centre forward, then this could be massive for him. And yeah, like I said, Arsenal, massive spending power. If they want him again one day, I'm sure that move could materialise. Maybe they should try and include some kind of like buyback clause in the deal, but right now Balogun should go elsewhere and continue to sort of forge this career, which I respect it. I really respect it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it felt like at the weekend, I mean, Brentford had a bid for Brennan Johnson of about £30 million rejected. Maybe they'd look at someone like Balogun. The only issue for Balogun is, Ivan Toney will come back in January and he will become their star man by all imagination.
But how long do you reckon Ivan Toney really stays at Brentford? Because the reality was he was probably going to leave this summer.
Probably was, but now, I mean, next summer, I suppose a club might take a chance on him. It depends how well he recovers from this betting ban, to be honest. But yeah, Balogun, maybe he'd go to a club like Brentford. I'd personally like to see him stay in the Premier League, but that's just from a purely selfish point of view. If you do get the offer of going to AC Milan in particular, who've needed a striker, Giroud getting no younger, Ibrahimovic retiring, that's an amazing move for a player of that caliber and at that age.
Just quickly, how cheeky is that bid from Brentford for Brennan Johnson?
Yeah, it's quite derisory, isn't it?
Just to like go to Nottingham Forest and offer 30 million for their
never going to be accepted. It gets in his head, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
And maybe he starts pushing for a move, but I can't imagine it.
That's a dark arts piece of bidding.
Absolutely, it's classic Dougie Critchley on Football Manager. That's what I do. Just a bid that's never going to be accepted, but it gets in their head, gets them thinking. Right, let's quickly wrap up with a final few moves. I mean, Thomas Partey's been linked with a move away from Arsenal. You happy with that? Lavia coming in to replace him?
I feel like Arsenal fans always talk about Thomas Partey as if he's like God's gift. I mean, but yeah, he was disappointing at the back end of the last season. I don't like the fact that he maybe would be moving on. I think
you don't like the fact that?
I think if you're losing Granit Xhaka already, that's such a big voice in that midfield. It looks like Jorginho, I know he wasn't there for very long, but still experienced. Looks like he'll probably move on at some point. I don't like moving Thomas Partey on. It's all well and good getting Lavia in, but he's only 19, isn't he? He's still only a teenager. I mean, I think he's certainly a great prospect which teams should be looking to buy. I think Zach pitched Lavia for Arsenal on Sunday Vibes, so just go check it out if you haven't already. But yeah, Thomas Partey, I genuinely don't think he's fulfilled the £50 million price tag which he arrived with, considering they paid it in full.
But yeah, you don't want to move him on?
No, I think you've got to try and get a bit more out of him.
Okay, fair enough. I think if you can get Rice and Lavia in for Xhaka and Partey, you absolutely do that. I think that's good future-proofing. I think Partey is replaceable, as good as he was in stretches last year. I don't think he was consistent enough, as you say, down the stretch. And obviously, everything that's hanging over him, it's probably a good time for Arsenal to offload if they could. But having said that, I do agree you are losing a lot of experience in that midfield. Maybe they'd have to sign a third midfielder as well, with Jorginho potentially leaving as well. Finally, let's talk about Kim Min-jae to Bayern Munich. Feels like Bayern have finally won the race for a player this summer, missed out on Rice, seemingly. And Kim Min-jae looks like he's nearing a move to Bayern Munich. Do you like that?
Yes, I do. Well, I like
the player.
Yeah, he's epic, and I think you said it on Twitter. It just looks like Upamecano's just lost. Yeah. It's not a bad thing to have an alternative in defence, and I think Lucas Hernandez is probably
going to PSG apparently.
Yeah, and fine. His injury record's sadly
not very good.
Shoddy. So Kim Min-jae coming in, that is massive for that. Almost want him to go to a team where he'll probably do more. I feel like in the Bundesliga week in, week out, we probably won't see him at his full potential. But yeah, him alongside Matthias de Ligt has the potential to be
big bruisers.
That is a seriously hard call.
Physical.
Yeah, defence. So yeah, we're in for that.
Yeah,
so yeah,
absolutely.
we like that. But yeah, I'm still stunned that Manchester United / Newcastle aren't trying a bit harder. But Bayern Munich could probably compete with them for wages. He's definitely going to. That's a big step. It is a step up from Napoli, isn't it? So I do like this from Bayern Munich. Well done. And actually, the price they're paying for him, 42 million, whatever it is, 50 million euros. Great.
Yeah, and also the man being linked now with Man United is Axel Disasi, really promising midfielder at Monaco, and maybe kind of fits the
centre-half.
Yeah, exactly, and fits their squad structure a little bit better, because I don't think he'd come in and instantly expect to be a starter. Whereas if you sign Kim Min-jae for £50 million, I think Varane's nose is slightly put out of place, and it's probably Kim Min-jae starting alongside Lisandro Martinez. And I still think Varane, when fit, has his place in the starting lineup.
Absolutely.
So Disasi as a backup, maybe easy into that Varane position in a year or two. Nice work. You also wanted to mention Romeo Beckham to Brentford B.
I just saw that. I thought
That's down
fun.
on the script.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, it's good to him. He's I actually watched his little highlights reel. I thought he looked. He's been alright there. Did you see the thing where David Beckham went to watch the game and then got immediately mobbed by fans? He has to like run off the pitch.
No, I didn't.
He has to like run away and climb over like a fence to get away. But no, yeah. Well done, Romeo.
Well done, Romeo. He's got his dream move. Guys, that's all we've got time for on Monday Vibes for today. I hope you guys enjoyed our roundup of all those transfers, the Man City Exodus, Ruben Neves to Saudi Arabia, etc., etc. Henry, you mentioned you mentioned Sunday Vibes. You recommend they go watch that?
Yeah, absolutely. We gave the top 8 clubs and Aston Villa 200 million to spend.
What was the transfer you were most pleased about from your side?
For a bit of a laugh, I put in Tottenham should go for Julian Alvarez and got absolutely smashed.
Right. Okay.
I thought that was funny, but no, I don't.
It's definitely funny.
I really like Florian Wirtz to Manchester City. Ooh. I'd really like to see it happen. James behind the camera, you like that one? Yeah,
he likes it.
He's giving me the thumbs up for that one. I just think that if they are going to sell Bernardo Silva, a lot of that money should go in on someone like Florian Wirtz. I think he'd be absolutely perfect.
Yeah, he is a brilliant player. Very exciting. Guys, thank you so much for watching Monday Vibes. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and leave a comment as well. And we'll catch you later in the week. Bye-bye.